What is up, everybody? Solomon here. I hope you guys are all having a fantastic day. Extremely excited today to have Ben Wenger, who is the chief engineer of the X.Network. How are you doing this morning, Ben?
Doing good. It's a good morning.
Extremely busy, I'm sure. I definitely want to hear a little bit of your background and experience within the X.Network. If you could give us that history, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I've been with XX since day one. I know David Shum now for more than a decade. I've been working with him on various projects since back since when I still went to college. And when XX started, it kind of just was a natural fit. The stuff that XX stands for privacy and how that relates to basically the central structure of society is something that I was already passionate about, and I was very excited to join a project like that. And it's been a ride. We started with just CMEX and some ideas of privacy, and then it was an organic growth into cryptocurrency and quantum security. And 5, 6 years later, we're here.
Thank you. No, that's awesome. Some basic facts around XX that I have here. So over 12,000 members on the Telegram, 5,000 in Discord, over 14,000 on Twitter, 400 plus nodes. Not financial advice, obviously, but 6,200 coin holders. Most of the team's been together since 2017, 20 engineers and programmers. I could run the gamut with everything that you guys have facilitated already. I definitely want to get into one of the heavy hitting things that you guys are putting out. And this is kind of around digital sovereignty, privacy, the digital economy, around platforms that we use daily for social interaction. So TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Telegram, and how X.Network is going to be solving a lot of those issues that exist right now. So I guess from your standpoint, Ben, when you look at platforms like TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Telegram, if you could let the audience know, because I don't think many people may be aware just how many issues there may be regarding digital sovereignty, privacy, what happens to our data when we log onto these platforms.
It's a big question. So what I like to say is that when you log on to most platforms today, you're not logging in with your identity. You're getting your identity kind of rented back to you. You can post these platforms. You can post as you on these platforms only as long as the platforms stay. They require you to allow them to collect data, and they will use that data for whatever their purposes are, and they will not be transparent about it. The fundamental problem with these platforms is architectural. It's that you've got a company whose job is to make money, who runs a platform, which becomes integral to the social good of our society. And, that's a lot of power, and it's a pretty big trade-off that we as a society are making. And, we did it for a lot of reasons. To a certain extent, Bitcoin, the paper is 2008, 2009. The ideas that underpin how we can have an internet that isn't structured that way are, from the internet perspective, still new. So this isn't the kind of deal where we did what we did because there was another way. But nowadays we can build systems. This is what I think we're doing at XX, which allow us to have the same type of rich interaction without giving up access to control of our lives.
100%. And just some quick notes for the audience here that I kind of took down prior to this. Telegram tracks your contact data. There's no end-to-end end encryption. Facebook and Instagram, like Ben said, make a significant portion of their revenue by selling users' data to collection companies. Discord collects your phone number, collects data, no end-to-end encryption, phishing attacks. TikTok's parent company that I saw on your guys' Twitter, TikTok's parent company, which is ByteDance, it was just put out that they plan to leverage data capture from that platform to track the physical location of American citizens, which is pretty wild as well. And the more that we look, we can see multiple examples, and the rabbit hole goes pretty deep. So one of the most exciting initiatives being built out leveraging X.Network is Speakeasy, right? And you guys have it framed around it being the world's first truly anonymous social communication application for conversation, debate, and information sharing. Can you talk a little bit about an overview, kind of where the initiative of Speakeasy came about, why it's necessary right now, why it's important for users to use it, and then we'll get a little bit into the features.
So there's some place to start. So censorship is becoming a bigger and bigger issue with the internet. I think there's a lot of people are aware of various companies engaging in censorship. And I was, what got me personally started thinking about Speakeasy or a product like Speakeasy was experiences I had specifically on Discord where I was given warnings not for content Discord didn't like, but for talking to people that Discord didn't like. And it kind of gave me a realization that regardless of the intent of the censors of the internet, the amount of power that they have is suffocating. Eventually, these platforms will have the ability, and they currently are, to steer public conversation, to steer public thought. And at least in my belief, in my political beliefs, that I don't think that anyone should have that kind of power over anyone. So that was one of the seeds. And the other one was that we've had the XX Messenger for a while, really for point-to-point communication, and that the internet very much is built on pseudo-anonymous communication, and a lot of its faults lie in the imperfectness of that pseudo-anonymity. And we realized we could use our technology to build something which takes that pseudo-anonymity up to the next level. And this is basically what Speakeasy is. It's a social discussion platform, which you can join. You can create these speakeasies, and where you have the ability to share these as far and wide as you want, but only those in them do. And it's basically what happens if you take the idea of privacy, which in my opinion is the ability to, it's not that no one knows anything about you, it's the ability for you to control who knows what about you and take it into how we discuss things and how we interact with a large group of people. This is a little meandering, but I guess I was going to give an end cap. The idea behind Speakeasy is that we can have an internet which allows us to communicate how we expect without the trade-offs that we have today. And I think that's what we built.
Yeah, and I mean, my interpretation from everything that I've looked at is it's really about putting the power back in the user's hands. It's about putting the decision-making back in the user's hands. And right now, a lot of this stuff is outside of our control. Even if you're looking on a platform like Twitter right now, if you end up saying the wrong thing, I mean, a lot of people have their entire networking aspects and what they're trying to facilitate, pretty much built out on Twitter. And if something goes wrong, what happens? Some of the features are really interesting. Can you talk a little bit about Codenames and Speakeasy and what Codenames represent?
Yeah, so Codenames, to a certain extent, were a invention of necessity. As we're working on Speakeasy, it was initially built on systems within the XX Messenger. And one of the problems we ran into is that it wasn't much of an issue for XX Messenger, but when you have a central server that registers names, you've got a problem because that list knows anyone and they can decide not to give people names. That's something we wanted. And we kind of took a piece out of kind of the normal cryptography playbook, which is that when you generate keys, so for example, you generate wallets, you generate anything, you do them in such a big space that you don't have to worry about two people ever getting the same wallet. It just will never happen. And so that's basically what Codenames are. So when you first log in, it generates as many Codenames as you want, and you choose one. And to a certain extent, users may not like it because they don't get to choose their name. But what we found is that the names it generates are so wacky that users actually really enjoy the process of selecting them. And then once you have one, no one will ever generate the same one as you, almost certainly. And this creates a really nice environment where, because we generate locally and because we're just using basic statistics to make sure they don't collide, it creates a world where you have a series where the user completely controls your identity. You don't own your identity because a server says this is yours. You own your identity because you've got the keys for it, and that's it. So I think that it might be the world's first truly user-friendly and functional sovereign identity where it is completely owned by you. You've got the file, and if you've got the file, it's you, and you can use it forever, and no one can ever stop you. And I think it's core to what Speakeasy is, because if there is a central server, it can censor you. And I think that isn't the world that I want to live in. And I'm hoping that many users will feel the same.
Yeah, and I think you touched on, censorship proof. If you could extrapolate out on that a bit, I mean, no authority beyond you moderating or censoring content and just putting that power back into the individual user's hands. So what does that look like as far as, if I want to start a speakeasy and invite certain people, is there privacy? Is there private aspects? Can I create a private speakeasy? Can I create a public one? As far as that moderation is concerned and me, the user?
Yeah, so speakeasies themselves, not with initially alpha, but they will have moderation in the idea that the creator themselves can moderate it and they can grant powers to those in it. The standard features you see within Discord, you see within Telegram. The uniqueness of, but what happens is that there isn't any external person. So regardless of if your speakeasy is public or private, which we'll get to in a second, there's no admin authority which can modify it. Your speakeasy is hosted on a network. The network doesn't really know, even that's hosting a speakeasy. Like these things are mixed in with XX messages. It's mixed in with anything else that's using the platform. The platform itself doesn't know what it's hosting. And even if it did, it's spread out across thousands of nodes. It's not like there's one server that hosts your speakeasy. A certain message to your speakeasy happens to be hosted at this time on node 7, 35, 14, whatever. So there is no central group to censor it, even if they knew that it existed, which you really can't figure it out.
Yep.
Now, the difference between public and private isn't actually if the network knows it's there. It has more to do with how you join them. Basically, is there a password? And eventually, which the alpha doesn't have this, we hope to have a decentralized system where people can optionally publicize their speakeasy for others to join. And you won't be able to do that for a private speakeasy. Those will be public. So that's the difference. I mean, they have the same fundamental privacy within the encryption. It's really more about how you invite and how people join.
Okay, great. And you talked a little bit about surveillance free as well, and you did touch on it, but can you extrapolate out on, with the contents that are within a speakeasy, nobody except those from within that speakeasy knows that even exists, or that the code name, or that your code name is in it. Can you kind of delve into that a little bit?
Yeah, so that comes from a few things. There's really two. One is end-to-end encryption. So when you share a speakeasy, that link includes keys. And unless you have those keys, you can't identify the speakeasy and you can't read the messages. So because you can't do either of those things, there's just no way to surveil it. It's just to an external observer, part of a sea of gibberish. The second component is CMIX itself. So when you send to a speakeasy, it goes to the network and it is mixed with hundreds of thousands of other messages in a metadata shredding process, which completely removes any sender information. So when it comes out, you've got this encrypted blob. No one knows what it's for, and the only people who know go and grab that blob are those who have the keys for the speakeasy. And when they get it, they can decrypt it, and then they see, King Solomon sent it at this time. Here's the content. He said hi. And so because of the combination of the strong end-to-end encryption along with the mixing, it creates an environment where you can't find these, you don't know where they are, you don't know what's in them, which basically makes them unsurveillable. Someone can go and monitor everything on the network. We are assuming someone is. They can't get anything.
Yep. No, that's fantastic. And this is actually going really smoothly because you keep touching on kind of the future questions that I have, which makes this, super seamless for me. Can you maybe expand out a little bit on decentralization and what that looks like as far as the integration with Speakeasy and the XX network and the node structure and kind of what that looks like to tie in decentralization within the social aspects?
So decentralization is a tricky topic because it's so wide and there's so many opinions. And I know, we're now coming close to kind of the 15th anniversary of the real decentralization movement. But in my opinion, we're still in the early stages. And what decentralization really means, I think we're still discovering. But at least for within Speakeasy, decentralization means that the node operators are independent. We really try to make sure that instead of having node pools or single individuals who control a large percentage, each node operator is their own person running their own node. Most of them out of their own houses, so like we're not tied to specific data centers. The second big thing that decentralization means for at least me in the XX network is that the decision making for the network is distributed. There is one person who, has their wants and needs and they force it on the network. It is made via democracy. And then the last thing, which is important for the XX network significantly, is that it's spread across the world, spread across countries and jurisdictions and continents. And what this means is that, when you send a message, and if you go use Speakeasy, after you send a message, a little link, you can click Show Mix, and it shows you exactly how that message propagated. You're going to see that it's at least 2 or 3 countries, if not 4 or 5 countries that it routed through. And that means that there isn't really a way, at least an easy way, to go and say, okay, I want to break who sent this. You got to go to nodes in all these countries and get everything working together. And that is even if they have the data, which most nodes are purging that on a regular basis. So in other words, what decentralization means is it provides the real properties you need for actual privacy and actual censorship resistance in a world that doesn't really want to provide it.
Yep.
In fact, I couldn't imagine delivering something that ensures these things without decentralization. I don't think it's possible.
Yeah, and you touched a little bit on kind of the messaging aspects and what that looks like. Can you talk about the metadata shredding and CMix a little bit within Speakeasy, like how that kind of occurs from message sending within the application, and what metadata shredding represents as far as the the en route type aspects?
Yeah, so the big thing about the metadata shredding of the Speakeasy is it protects you when you're in a Speakeasy from other people within the Speakeasy. So, I mean, one thing that I've heard about is that someone will be on a platform, they'll be on Discord, they'll be on Reddit, and then they do something and someone wants to know about it, and the company will get a subpoena, and then they just give them the log. And there are no logs here. Because the message first goes through CMix, there is no correlation of IP address to your message, which allows you to actually maintain your anonymity.
Yeah.
That's really the big use. Sovereign identity, in my opinion, isn't really even that useful without this, because sure, you own the identity, but you only own it as long as you're the only one with the keys. If everyone in the world knows that you have the keys to your identity, take a wrench and some wire to tie you to a chair and get the password out of you. So I think that fundamentally the privacy is what underpins the idea of your identity owning your Speakeasy to begin with, because it's what makes it actually yours.
Yeah, and moving towards sovereign identity and talking about key storage, I mean, the users pretty much have the option as far as how they want to secure out their keys within their sovereign identity. Can you maybe talk a little bit about key storage and what that looks like as far as sovereign identity is concerned?
Yeah, so in the alpha, when you go to settings, there's the ability to download your key. It downloads a little encrypted packet. You can put it wherever you want. You go to another computer, you can open it. You can have the same account on multiple computers. It works seamlessly. For the beta, our plan is to expand that. And the thought is these are just these little files. They're encrypted. And as long as no one knows the password, they can have the files. So what we would like to do is make it so that you as the user can choose where you store it. So you can decide, I want to synchronize my account to Google Drive, or I can want to use Apple or Dropbox, or you know what, I want to use Filecoin or Crust or any blockchain project. Or maybe I have my own server under my bed and I really would love to use that. And that's how it's going to be. We're going to have this very fascinating thing where when you get to Speakeasy and you want to log in, it'll just say, choose whatever you want to log in with, we'll log in there, and that's how you'll do it. And yeah, so that's how I think that's going to move.
And then if you guys look at the feature comparison with what you're really trying to facilitate and build out with Speakeasy and compare it to Discord, Telegram, WhatsApp, Twitter, I mean, I know that I've kind of seen the chart here. It's pretty fascinating. So I'll run through it for the listeners here. The only one that checks all the boxes is Speakeasy. And that's, when I talk about all the boxes, I'm talking about end-to-end encrypted channels, censorship proof, user identity ownership, untraceable identity, secret channels, surveillance free or mixing, which you had talked about, Ben, and obviously built on top of Web3. Can you tell the listeners, from a roadmap standpoint, because I know that I believe Alpha is coming out tomorrow. Kind of talk about where you guys are at with Alpha, what the expectations are for Alpha, and then moving forward, what the roadmap looks like for Speakeasy and additional features and integrations down the line.
Yeah. Alpha's supposed to come out tomorrow. I think it might slip a day or two just with development, but in Alpha, it's to a certain extent bare bones. We've got the core security features in there. We've got basic stuff. We've got replies, reactions. Picture and file sending is not present yet. That'll be added quickly. But there's some security upgrades we want to do. But what we're looking forward is beta, which we're hoping to get January, February timeframe. And when we get there, the goal is to kind of really amp it up with just about all the features people expect from a communication tool. So you've got things like sending audio, sending pictures, hopefully video. You've got things like pinning messages, admin commands. All of those things are coming short order. But beyond that, I think that what we're really looking at and what I'm hoping to do is to ask the question of how can this be more than just kind of, chat and Telegram, because I think that what we have here is a very private application, and what you want to, I don't think privacy is the antithesis of being public. Privacy is where we form our identities, and then I want to allow people to express them and express their thoughts to the public. So my hope is to kind of build this out to have so that conversations from private speakeasies can then be broadcast to the world when they're significant. People can then bring them into their own speakeasies. It basically create an environment where you have inter-speakeasy communication, where there's feeds of important conversations, and kind of move it from where it is now, which is very much a large scale, but still conversation-based platform, to also include elements of more influencer-based platform.
And where would you like to direct people towards to, potentially participate in Alpha, learn more about Speakeasy? Would that be through the Twitter, through the Discord?
So there's definitely Twitter's a good place to start. Big announcements go there. The easiest thing to do is anyone can just use the Alpha. You can go to alpha.speakeasy.tech, and in about 20 seconds, you'll be in there and you can create a channel or join one. And that will be live on that website the next few days. Currently, it's coming soon. I expect that's the real thing. Use it. Go to our Discord. There will be a link to a speakeasy we're using for feedback, and give us feedback and tell us what you think. Help us improve the product, because it's one thing to build a technically secure product. It's another thing to build a user experience that is really compelling, and that's kind of the next big hurdle. Not to say I think what we've got is something that's very good right now, but you always have to keep improving. I think it's users who can help us understand how to do that.
No, that's awesome. I'm certainly looking forward to participating in Alpha. And yeah, thank you so much, Ben. Again, we have had Ben Wenger for Chief Engineer of X.XX.Network. Alpha of Speakeasy is coming out for all intents and purposes, and looking forward to seeing it flush out and develop. I think digital sovereignty, especially surrounding a lot of the platforms that we use right now, is heavy-handed kind of from all these organizations that are pretty much incentivized to use our data in whatever ways makes them the most money. And I'm certainly looking forward to participate in Speakeasy. And Ben, I know how busy you are. I can even see on the board behind you, you're constantly putting in work. So I appreciate your time. And I hope the audience finds as much value as possible in this interview as well. So thank you, Ben.
Thank you.